If you like this video, if it helped you out, do me a favor, subscribe. That helps me out immensely. Don't cost you a penny. It's free, right? What else in this world is free? Hey there, YouTubers. Me again. If you don't know who me is, my name's Dave. I work on stuff. If you've been watching my channel, well, you already know who I am. If you're not watching my channel, why not? Anyway, I'm not going to waste any more time talking because this is a how-to video, and I know you don't want to hear some guy yapping. All you want to know is how to. And so what we're going to do today is we are going to charge up the AC system in this truck. Hopefully there's no problems, not really sure. But first things first, we've got to get some freon in this thing, and that way we can see if there's leaks. But if there's not, she just needs to be charged. She's been sitting for 12 years. I'm guessing that it just leaked out over time by non-use. We're just going to put freon in it. I'm going to show you how to put freon in this truck fast and easy. I'm going to show you that you can't screw it up. It's impossible to screw it up. Well, I guess you could if you work at it hard enough. But if you do things the normal way, you can't screw it up. So come with me. Let's get started. Now I told you you can't screw this up, right? So here's your two spots where you would normally fill it up. Now if you have a professional set of gauges, which I do, but I'm not going to show you with those because nobody's going to go out and buy a professional set of gauges. You're going to use something similar to this. You're just going to go to your local auto parts store and you're going to buy one of these, right? Now they do have freon that you can buy that has a sealer in it, so if you think you might have a leak, get the one with the sealer. It also has a dye in it, so if you do have a leak, you can pinpoint it. In this case, we are just going to use basic everyday freon just to see what I've got, because I don't want to spend $40 on a set on freon. These are like $8, $6 or $8, I don't know. They're not very expensive. You can get the one with the sealer in it. It comes with a gauge and everything. That's a good one to put in the very first time, but after that, if you do have a leak, then you might want to pinpoint that and fix it. But this isn't about fixing a leak yet. If we do have a leak, we'll fix it. This system looks to be in really good shape. I think it's just leaked down from sitting. So I'm going to show you right now. You take these little red caps off of here. Now, see this line is really fat, okay? And this line is really skinny. The skinny line is considered a high pressure line. The fat line is considered a low pressure line, okay? Now, you always want to fill, and hopefully I'm telling you right, because, you know, sometimes I get mixed up. See how big this fitting is and how small this fitting is? It's not going to go. You can't do it. It won't go. So you can't put the gauge on the high pressure side, because if you did, it'd probably blow the can up in your hand. And I had a guy comment on that, why'd you show us the wrong way to do something? Because you're going to blow stuff up. Well, he'd be right if it was possible. Now on the old systems, yeah, you could do that because it just had a Schrader valve and you could hook up to either one, so you had to really know what you're doing. But these are idiot proof. Yee-hee, that's why I'm working on it. So high pressure line, it's just too big. It's not going to go. Okay, this, it'll go on. See? It goes right on. Now we're not going to put it on yet because I don't have the can hooked up. You have to have the car running. So I'm going to start the car up or truck up. It might be a little harder to hear me, but I'll talk really loud so you can hear me. Okay? We're going to hook up to this line, but we're going to hook up to the can. So while it's nice and quiet, I'm going to show you how to hook up to the can. This particular one, I've got several of these. One's got a trigger on it so you can, you know, gauge it really, really close or whatever. We're going to keep this simple, okay? We're going to give it a KISS. We're going to keep it simple, stupid. That's what KISS stands for, K-I-S-S. Keep it simple, stupid. That'd be me. So we're going to just screw this on here. It's got a little seal in there. It says a little O-ring. If that breaks, you can just put a new O-ring in there. These are not very expensive. I forget how much this one was, but it wasn't a lot. And I probably bought it 100 years ago. You're just going to screw the can on. See, just screws on. Screw it down till it stops. You don't have to over crank it because, like I said, it has a seal on it. Now that's ready to go, but we're still not going to hook it up yet because right now, with the engine off, these are what they call equalized. Okay, meaning there's the same amount of pressure in this line as in this line. So there isn't no high and low at this point. It is equalized. When we start it, this is also known as a suction line, the low pressure side. I don't know why they call it suction, because technically there's still pressure on it. So if it's got pressure, how can that be a suction line, right? You'd think it'd be like a vacuum. But they call it the suction line nonetheless, and that is because the freon's traveling this direction, okay? It goes through here and then out there and all through that. So we always fill it in through this fat line. You can't mess it up. I can't tell you that enough. You cannot mess it up. Now I'm also going to show you some shortcuts, but I'm going to tell you right now before we show you that, don't do it. Because if you don't have a lot of experience in air conditioners, you can mess things up by these shortcuts. I'm going to show you the shortcuts in case you want to take the chance, but that's on you. I recommend you don't. It takes a lot longer to do it without the shortcut, but it's safer. So just keep that in mind, and I'll show you what that is when we get there. So I'm going to go start the truck, then we're going to hook it up to the suction line, and we'll go from there. Okay? Ready? And I'm going to go start the truck. I also forgot to mention, make sure you put your air conditioner on high, so it'll be max cool or high or whatever the case may be, with your fan on high as well. So basically, like if it was 100 degrees outside and you had your AC running in the vehicle, that's where you want to put it. So we got the engine running with the AC on max cool or high. Alright, now we got this thing screwed in. We're going to hook it up. You're going to push on, you just kind of pull up on that little collar and push it on there. Now you can see it's firmly planted. And then we have, dropped something. Anyway, that's just one of those little, both of those little red things. Oh well. Don't worry if you drop those, they're red. You'll find them. Okay, now you'll notice there's a gauge, but you'll see that this is starting to go. Now the compressor is not engaging yet, and it won't engage until the pressure builds up enough to turn it on. So I can feel the can getting cold. That means the freon's going in. You never want to get into the red. See, that's what this gauge is. Very, very simple. And if you want to see how much freon's in there, of course it's not running yet, so it's not going to do much of anything. But once we get her to run, then we're going to see. Don't do that. Whatever you do, don't do that. I'm just doing that to speed up the process a little bit. You see how high the pressure goes when you do that, though? I'm just checking to see how much is in the can. You can see it's getting up into the blue now as she's running. Just going to keep letting it run. Now this is a trick that I use to speed it up a little bit, but don't you do this. You can put it in as a liquid doing that. See, it says use only with this end up. Okay, so do that. I do this occasionally just to see if I can speed things up, but it's a risk. We interrupt this program because we got a leaky line. As I was filling it, I found that the top line, some ham-handed Harry, now if your name's Harry, I apologize, got in there, and when they put a new line on there, they laid it up against the engine and it rubbed a hole in it. So as I was filling it, yeah, all leaked out. This video was only supposed to be how to add freon because, you know, it leaks down over time. But I was just going to show you how to add freon. And that's still pretty much what we're trying to do here. But because I've got a leaky line, I'm also going to show you how to fix the line. If you don't have a leaky line, by all means, fast forward past this middle part and then get back to just putting the freon in. We've already gotten, you know, where to fill it and all that stuff. So that's really all you need to know, but I do want to show you when I refill this, I want you to pay close attention to that to see just how far you need to fill it. And we're not going to use thermometers and things, although it's helpful. If you have a thermometer, I've got one, you pull a little trigger and tells you to see how cold it does get in the vehicle. But you don't need that. If you put your hand in front of it and it feels cold, it's working, right? So anyway, we're going to get back. I'm going to change this line out. I'm going to let you watch me do that. But again, if you do not have a leaky line, by all means, just fast forward to the end where you see me filling it and where the gauge needs to go, and we're done, right? In the meantime, let's get started on this. Now I've got two humongous wrenches on here. One's 1 1/4, and one is 1 1/8. Now because that's one thing the manufacturer did right, because the odds of you having 2 1/4 wrenches in your toolbox are slim to none. And you don't have to spend a lot of money. These are like cheap Harbor Freight deals. So you don't have to spend a lot of money on a wrench that size, because the idea of you stripping a nut out that's that big, pretty slim. And a wrench this big isn't going to flex very much just because it's huge. So when you start getting into the bigger things, even if you don't have metric, you don't really need big net metric and big standard, because when you start getting into sizes that big, there's not enough of a difference between them to make a problem. Then there's always the metric adjustable. You get a regular crescent or adjustable wrench, you can always use that if you need to, but sometimes it gets hard to get into tight spots. This one's not real tight, but there's some weird little bracket right here for whatever reason, and so you can only get this wrench in on that way, which is wicked stupid, but it is what it is. Because I don't see any purpose for that bracket coming up here. I don't know. I don't get it, but they have their reasons for doing goofy stuff. Anyhow, I've already cracked it loose because, I probably would have taken out the camera with my elbow trying to break this thing loose. But I'm just going to show you. I take one, hold it, and then crack that one loose that way. I did have to put a little bit of mustard on there because it was tight. But once you get it loose, it's a piece of cake. Now, if you have a system like this that just leaked all out, you ain't got to worry about saving on it. You know what I mean? And you just got to kind of wiggle this, because there's an O-ring in there, so you want to wiggle this a little bit until you can get it to come loose. But if there's freon in it, you'll have to see the two O-rings. There's two O-rings on this. See the two O-rings? If there's freon in it, you're supposed to recover it, and you will need an elaborate setup to do that. So I would have a professional do it if you're that far into it, because it is against EPA law, illegal, shall we say, to just vent it into the atmosphere, which I think is a little bit weird. I mean, I get it for guys that do this every day. I can understand, putting that rule on them, but Joe Schmo, you or me, the amount we're going to put into the air is minuscule compared to the, size of the world. But it is illegal, just letting you know that. So if you vent it out into the atmosphere, well, oops. But this one I didn't have to, simply because there wasn't anything in there. It all leaked out anyway. So before I did. But I didn't do it on purpose, okay? Didn't do it on purpose. Now we're going to move to the other side of the truck and take the other side off, and that'll get this line off, and I'm going to take it to my local parts store where they make lines and see if they can't fix it for me, because lo and behold, I can't buy one. It doesn't exist. I've tried the internet. I've tried, everywhere. I haven't tried a junkyard. That might be also an option. There's probably a few of these in the junkyard. I have a parts truck, but unfortunately it was a V6, and it's a little bit newer, and these parts are not compatible. But there is a place up here that can put a new, because it's the rubber part, and I'll show you that in a second. It is the rubber part right here that is leaking. See, if you can see right here, it's rubbing on the engine. So when you put your new line on, don't let it rub the engine, because it just wore a hole right here. Unbelievable. The reason they got all this crap is to keep it from rubbing, and they didn't do that. So obviously somebody's been in here before and boogered it all up, made it hard for the next owner, if you will. But, you can only do what you can do. Now this doesn't really fit this very well, I've noticed. But again, when it's this big, it's not that big a deal. So we're just going to, hold on, I'm going to show you this one. So, there we go. Oh, yeah, it broke loose. This one doesn't want to turn. Oh, this one doesn't turn. Oh, how fancy is that? They always do things backwards. I don't understand that. But you got to turn this one instead of this one. That don't make a bit of sense, but okay. Anyway, we just turn this until it's off, and like I said, I'm going to keep my cap because I'll probably lose it. I'm going to take this one off. I'm going to bring it down to the parts store. I don't know if they'll let me video the repair or not. If they do, I'll do it. Here we go. There's another O-ring in here. If you notice, there's some yellow in here, and that is how I knew this was leaking, because I started seeing yellow up all around in here. And that means somebody's been in here before trying to find a leak. I've also found a little bit of yellow here. Oh, you can't really see that. On the compressor, let me readjust my camera. Right here on the compressor, there was a little bit of yellow around this seam. So these are separate pieces crunched around something else. And the who's and what's is connected to the Dingham Watts and technical stuff. But anyway, it was leaking a little around the seal here. I think once we get it pressurized, they did put some sealant in here, it looks like. I think that's going to fix itself. I hope. If not, we'll be needing a compressor too. But I think if it's only leaking a little bit around here, I'm hoping it'll get me through the summer, and we'll tanker back up next year. If not, well, then we'll be putting a compressor in it too, which I don't want to do. I just don't want to put that much money into this old truck, but if I got to, I got to. But anyhow, I've got this loose on both ends, And by the way, if you have a 4-cylinder Sonoma or S-10 this vintage, you will not be able to buy a top hose anywhere. So the good thing about it is the O-rings. Uh-oh, and I've already lost that one. Well, son of a gumba, I've already lost the O-ring. I'll be dipped in, horse pucky. It was there a minute ago. Because I don't think it was leaking at the O-ring, and there was an O-ring there. How did it go? Where did it go? Oh well, I'm gonna have to search for an O-ring now. Somebody look. I don't know what they did with that, but anyhow, I gotta search for an O-ring. I could probably find one or buy one cheap enough, if not. But that's just goofy. But the O-rings are on these. That way you don't have to worry so much on that one. Oh, but I lied. The O-rings are on the line on this one, so we're going to have to be careful not to damage those. But this one was on here. Anyway, enough of that. I'm going to take this to the parts store, and I'm going to have them make me a new hose. Let me see if I can let you see the hose. Oh, yeah. See, look at this. This is what happens when you don't think before you work on your car. Can you see that? That's just a big wear spot wore right through that hose. It would have worn through a metal line too, probably even faster. You can't let these touch anything that's going to move and rub. And so now I'm going to have to go hopefully get these two ends replaced and get this new rubber line replaced. I wouldn't care if they put in a hard line right there. I don't see why it would matter. I guess because it's not attached to the engine. But it is. Well, no, it's not. Oh, yeah. That's got a windy bracket on it. In reality, I think we could almost get away without rubber hoses, and this one's still good. But that's what happened. Rubbed through here. There's a hole in there now. Going to go get that fixed and try to find my O-ring. So we'll be back. I got the line back. Not to be confused with line backer. Okay, that was a bad dad joke. But anyway, I got the line back from the store. I tried to get them to let me go in there and show you all how they did it, but they wouldn't let me in. But this is how they did it. Because there's this big curl here, they wouldn't allow them to get the crimper in there. So I guess they bent this after they put the line together. But they were able to get this barbed fitting in here, and it's a high pressure barb, and then it's got some kind of chemical that bonds it to it, so it won't come out even. They just put the clamps on there as an extra precaution, but they're not necessary from what they told me. And I lost my O-ring, but I was able to get some new ones. Elbows, all knees and elbows. This is PAG air conditioning lubricant. This is probably not the right one. I don't even know which one is the right one, and this one's not open, so I'm going to go get the other one that's open. This bottle has seen better days. It doesn't even have a label on it anymore, but it is air conditioning oil. It's kind of dirty, so thanks to my friends at AutoZone, I got a bunch of these rolls of blue towels. So I'm going to just kind of clean this up a little bit. Oh, it kind of came loose. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill the cap a little tiny bit with some. I don't need a tiny bit. I'm going to put it over here. Then I'm just going to make sure my hands are clean. Going to take this O-ring. I got me a new one. And I'm just going to kind of get it in the oil. And get it oily. Because, there we go. Uh-oh, don't want that. Just get some oil on it just to help it seal. There we go. Got that all lubed up. And put it on here, and hopefully it'll go on without popping off and getting lost like the other one. All right. There we go. I'm going to start with this one, and that'll hold it in place while I take the other ones off of there, because I've got the old ones still on the end here, and I plan on leaving them there until I get this one all situated. And I'm just going to put it on loose. Come on. There we go. I'm just going to keep everything loose at first, and we're going to make sure this is well away from the engine on this one this time. Now, and this is why I didn't go ahead and take these off of here yet. I'm going to wipe this clean, put on my glasses so I can see what I'm doing. And don't you love prop rods? You can't see it, it's right here. But it's right in my face, always. We're going to take these off. Be careful not to score. Oof, these are rough. These are in bad shape. Careful not to score your your aluminum, but they're kind of busted up a little bit. So we're going to replace them. Just take them out gently. So again, not to... See how they're wet? That's what we want. We want nice and oily. I'm going to take the other two. These things are not cheap. It cost me 10 bucks for 3 O-rings. That's kind of... Ow, you know what I mean? But you can look at the difference between them. Look at the difference in those two O-rings. Unbelievable. I'll get you a little closer. Look at that. Look at the difference in them two O-rings. So, we're going to put it in here. Get it cleaned up. Come on. Oh, it's in there for good now. It won't come out ever. Don't you hate that? Got no nails. There we go. So we got that one nice and greasy. While we, oops, I can't get that bugger out of there for nothing. Somebody help! Okay, there we go. And while I'm messing with this first one, we'll put the other one in there so I can struggle with it. And we're just going to, well, actually I'm going to try to clean that up a little bit because the grooves look a little dirty. Oh yeah. Ain't that pretty? Look at that. Woohoo! That's so pretty, I take it to the prom. Alright. Put this one on here, the firsted one. Just kind of roll it on there. Of course it goes into that first groove and doesn't want to go anywhere from there. So we're going to try to, oops, come on now, stay out of my way. We're going to try to gently move that out of the way, and it's not going to cooperate. I don't want to put a tool on it though, because, there we go. Because the tool could tear it. Right, and we don't want to keep that off the ground because it's got oil on it and it'll get dirty. And then this one, we're going to flip it over. Come on. Move it around, get it nice and early. Get better at this. Woohoo! And roll it onto here. There we go. Ain't those pretty? Alright. Now, I'm pretty sure you can see this down here. Oh yeah, you sure can. That's got to go up in there. We're going to put that on last, though, because we want to get these in here. I'm going to just gently try to wiggle these in here. There's one. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Can I get this on there? If I can get it to catch, we'll just pull her in with the... I don't think it will. You've got to kind of get it in by hand. Will it go? I don't think so. Is it going? Nah, it's not. We gotta get that in there. Prop rod's right in my schnoz. Come on, baby. Afraid that might be cross-threaded. Just don't want to go. We gotta get that in there. Come on. Man, I don't want to go. It's being a real humdinger. I'm going to try to gently pull that in with the threads, but gently. I'm going to put a little bit of oil on those threads too. There we go, come on. Ah! Now it'll come out. Don't worry, I'm still here. Alright, I'm going to pour a little bit on there. There we go. And I'm going to do the same with this one. Even though this one's brass. Can't hurt to put a little lubricant on there. Alright, I'm going to cover this up. Alright. I'm going to get the wrenches and I'm going to just gently see if I can suck that in with the wrench. But no cross-threading. Very bad mojo with air conditioning stuff. Now this is risky, but she really just doesn't want to work her way in. So I'm just going to just tiny bit of pressure. Seems to be going in okay. It's not, doesn't feel like it's cross-threading at all. think it's just pulling it in. I hope. I'm going to loosen it back up once it does. Okay, it's bottomed out. I'm not going to torque it because I want to make sure that it is bottomed out, because it's not anywhere near as far in as it was before. And nope, it's not. So it wasn't cross-threading though by any means, I don't think. Hope. Looks good. I don't trust it. Come on, baby. Oh, it's going. See, I don't like the way that feels, because... Yeah, see? Oh, shoots. Dadgummit. Well, that explains a lot. So much for my $10 O-rings. Well, that sucked banana peels. Yep, and that one's all nicked up too. To no good. I guess. And those are a little bit fatter, so I'm starting to wonder if maybe they weren't the wrong ones. I guess we're putting these old ones back on and hoping for the best. If it leaks here, at least I'll know why. Great, can't find the other old one. Fantastic. Oh, there it is. Ooh, it's in dirt. Well, let's hope for the best. I have some other O-rings. I just don't know if they're going to be any good. Not that I know if these are going to be any good. So let's go ahead. Yeah, they sure don't fit very tight, that's for sure. And I may have cross-threaded this, which would be very not happy. When dealing with a wrench this big, it's really easy to booger things up, you know. Ah, there she goes. She's going. Alright. That was rather disappointing. They were a bit thicker, so I'm thinking maybe they weren't the right ones. The ones that are in there, they don't look like AC rings, but if it'll get me through the summer, I'm okay with that. But yeah, there we go. I think it did start to cross thread a little bit because the O-rings were pinched in there. Alright, she's bottomed out. Notice I haven't started to tighten yet. I want to get both of them snugged. Now we're going to do the same with this one. Alright, and then I'm going to pop this in here. Come on, you! Oh, it didn't pop as easy as I thought it would. There we go. Now, that's good and far away, so we're going to tighten that one up because it's not touching the engine anymore. Same thing going on here. This is the one that spins on this one. We're just going to tighten these up. And hope hopefully okay. That one felt like if I put too much pressure it was going to strip. This one feels tight. Now she's not touching anything. That's the biggest thing, is making sure she ain't touching nowhere. This is supposed to be under here. We need to put that under there so it's not rubbing. There we go. And that should do it. Now we got to vacuum it. And I don't know if any of y'all understand what vacuuming it means, but I will explain it. Now my vacuum pump is an antique. It's heavy. It's basically an electric motor with a pump attached to it. It's about as old as I am, if not older. So, you know, but it works. So I continue to use it. I am going to hook my gauges. You have to have, unfortunately for folks, you have to have professional gauges to do this. You will not be able to do this with regular. Oop, I gotta get the adapter. But yeah, you will not be able to do this with without a set of professional gauges, unfortunately. Just for the record, I gotta put it down here because the hose is a lot shorter on the adapter. But just for the record, the yellow hose and or the one that goes to the middle goes to the pump. The bigger opening, well, I'll show you over here. Okay, just to show you, bigger fitting on the smaller line, smaller fitting on the bigger line. Big line is what we call the suction. That's the one we replaced. This is the high pressure line. All right, they will equalize when the system's off, and all of them will have the same pressure. But when you turn it on, this one's going to get much higher. This one will actually suck down lower. When you take the professional set of gauges, if you happen to have a set, red is always high pressure, scary, bad. Oh no, look out, high pressure, blow up in your face. So you put, now it's all empty, so nothing's going to blow up. But we're going to put this one on here. If it'll go on. Come on. Come on, baby. All right, there we go. You don't have to put the high pressure line on when you're vacuuming, but I usually try to do both. Now here's the low pressure, blue, low pressure, big line, small fitting. There we go. I think she went right on. Look at that. Okay. Now all we're doing here is we want to create a vacuum inside the system for a period of time. Now I'm going to go and work on the gremlin for a little while I'm sucking this system down, because what it's going to do is when you put a suction into the system, by creating a vacuum, it'll make water boil at a very, very low temperature. So by putting a vacuum inside the system, you will basically boil all the water out, and it will go through the vacuum pump. I'm going to turn it on now to get it started. And I like to leave them running overnight, but it's already pulled the vacuum. Oh, you got to open these up. Duh. Let me show you that. I'm going to do this again because I'm not sure if I videoed that. I hope I did, because I showed you, hopefully it came out, because I showed you the difference in pitch with the vacuum pump. I showed you these lines sucking down, so hopefully that came out. But just for kicks and giggles, in case it didn't, I'll close these. And hear the pump change? Because it's not sucking anything, right? I open these up. That opens the system up and is allowing the pump to vacuum the system. And these lines, these needles will suck down, and they've sucked down quite a bit now. So there's water boiling in the system. We'll get it all dried out in a few hours, and we'll put it all back together. And the only way you're going to see this segment is if for whatever reason I forgot to turn on the record button when I actually showed you how to do that. What I do want to show you real quick is if I do that, when I close these, it's going to see if the system's going to hold vacuum. So watch these gauges, and when I shut these, stops the vacuum pump from vacuuming. But you watch them to see if these will start to bleed down. Now there's obviously not a bad leak because it's not bleeding down at all. Now what I'll do is before I try filling this up, I will probably shut these off, and see if it'll hold the vacuum for any length of time before I go putting freon in it. But as of right now, she looks pretty good about holding the vacuum. So we're just going to go open them back up. And that's how you test to see if you got any leaks. Put a vacuum on it, see if it'll hold. So it's holding a little bit. I don't know how long it's going to hold. I'll probably test it. I might let it sit overnight and see if it won't hold until the morning. And if it will, then we'll fill her up with freon in the morning. But in the meantime, let's go work on the grandma. I let the truck sit overnight. Wanted to see if it's going to hold a vacuum throughout the night. And if you'll see where the needle is, it's still in a vacuum. That's what you want to know, because if it stays in a vacuum, that means there are no leaks. So if this does have leaks, they're very, 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 very tiny, because it's still holding the vacuum. Now, chances are when I pull these hoses off, it's going to lose its vacuum because it's going to vent some of it. If you were to do it with these professional gauges, it is possible to hook your freon can to your, well, let me show you here really quick. It is possible to just unhook your freon line. Well, you would hook it up down the other end, and then you would hook it up to your freon can, and that would allow you to leave it in a vacuum and suck the new stuff in with the vacuum. However, we are not going to do that because we're kind of using tools that you all would have access to, right? So there we go. There's where we're at with the fittings and everything. But we're not gonna use these because I want to be able to show you how you can do it at home. Now, changing a line and vacuuming it out is going to require a vacuum pump and a professional set of gauges. You're probably not going to have that, so you may have to leave such a thing to a professional. However, if you are willing to invest in those things, well, you can go ahead and vacuum a line and change out a line. But we're going to make believe I didn't do all that line change out. And we're going to start where I left off as far as filling the freon. When I was filling the freon, which you didn't see because I showed you the beginning stages of it, but then I kind of shut it off so you didn't have to sit there and watch me filling forever. And the reason it took forever is because we had a leak in this line. And as you can see, I fixed that. Now I'm going to go right back to that spot so that you can see how we finish filling it and where the gauge is going to be, because we're going to use a regular store-bought layman, regular guy off the street or girl off the street that could fill their own freon. I only showed you the line because I had to do it. Figured I'd let you know in case anybody wants to get professional about things. But this is going to go away, these two fittings, and we're going to put on the regular. You can buy it from AutoZone kind of fill up stuff. I believe that this is where we've left off. And the system's empty again, obviously, because I vacuumed it out, because I had to replace this line. She may or may not still be holding the vacuum since I pulled these off of here. Hopefully she is. Doesn't really matter at this point. I've got my pierced can, which, well, again, we saw at the beginning of the video. I'm just simply going to open this up. Can you see this? No, you can't. I guess I better do some adjusting with the camera. Scratch that. It was not a defective can of freon. It was a defective putter-inner. So I've got another putter-inner. This one's kind of a pain in the hooskow because you got to press the trigger, but we'll do what we got to do. So there we go. Where we want to get it up into is in this green area here. So here we go. It's going in. Right now it's still in a vacuum. You can see it's pegged up against a little peggy there. Let's see if we can zoom in on that gauge. Can's getting nice and cold. Woo! Shake it up, your hand gets real cold. That's how you tell if there's anything left in there. So I guess my putter-inner is Shazoo. Oh well, it is what it is. This one works. I just don't like having to hold the trigger. Suppose I could put a zip tie on there and fix it right up. Now once it equalizes in there and we get a little bit of pressure in there, we'll have to start the truck, which I've got it inside the shop, so that's probably not brilliant. Just fumigate myself while I'm running it. I guess we'll have to pull it back and get the tail end sticking out. But for now, we're just trying to get some pressure in there to get it started up. Notice I'm keeping the can upright. As we go on, you will see me turn it upside down. I think you did earlier in the video. Without the engine running, definitely don't do that. You don't want to fill the line with liquid and then start it up and cook your compressor. And in reality, if you don't really know what you're looking for and you're a novice, I would highly recommend you don't turn the can upside down at all, because you can hurt things. So I don't recommend that you do that, but if you want to take the chance and speed this situation up a little bit, you can indeed do that to put it in as liquid very carefully, but I would probably caution against it. Now, as you can see, my dial is way over here in the nothing, but if I let go of the trigger, boop, it'll build pressure. And see, now we're past filled but in the yellow, but the engine is not running. And so with the engine not running, the pressures on the high and the low side are going to be the same. But when you start the engine and engage, your compressor will not engage until there's enough pressure in here, probably well over into the red. So we'll keep filling it a little bit while I'm talking. Probably a little bit. I shake it just to make sure there's some in there because I can feel it. If it's cold, then I know there's some freon in the can. The compressor will not start up because there's a low pressure switch in there that will not let the compressor start unless there's enough freon in here in it to keep it safe. Because if it runs dry, it's going to destroy your compressor, and we don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do right now is, see, we're up into the yellow now, so we're just emptying this contents of this can into this system for right now. And boy, a whole bunch of dye along the outside of that engine from where that hose messed up. But we're just going to keep on filling it, and see, she's slowly getting higher and higher. And don't worry about that. It can get well into the red, like I showed you earlier, I believe, in the video earlier. Because, again, it's going to have the same pressures on the high side and on the low side because it's not running. Once the compressor engages, then we're going to have other. But we'll just keep on putting a little bit in this way. And then I'm going to back the truck up, get the tailpipe outside of the shop. That way I don't die. And we'll start it up and we'll start putting it in with, see if we can't get the compressor to engage. Now, you probably heard that loud click. That was the compressor kicking on. As you can see, it has pulled it was way up here in the red. Now it's way down here in the green again, so we got to keep on adding. It's going to suck it in now because the compressor is running. Now, normally somewhere around 35, 36, 38, 30, 40 is where you really want it. Like I said, you can turn it upside down, but I don't recommend that because that can seize your compressor. But it will speed things up a little bit. But my recommendation is don't do it. Just don't do it. It'll take a little longer, but it's worth it. And you'll notice I only do that for a short stint. See how the pressure went way, woo, look at that. Went way down for a minute there because that liquid got in there and slowed things down. And as it starts to cool off in the vehicle, that's going to pull down as well. So even once you get up in the green, then you want to keep on adding until the temperature in the truck drops. And basically, even at its lowest temperature, you want to make sure it's still in that green. So you may end up filling it up past the 40 or 50. Well, not past the 50, but right around 40, 45. Because as the unit starts to work longer, and cool the inside of the truck down, this is slowly going to pull down as well. So I know it sounds a little bit complicated, but it's really not. Basically, you just want to keep it in the green, you know. But as the truck runs, it's going to slowly want to go out of the green. So make sure you let the vehicle run until it's good and cold inside. As you can see, she's not getting in there really fast, even though I am cheating a little bit. There we go. We're starting to get a little in there now. I know, this is like watching grass grow, right? Trust me, I'm having to hold this trigger. It ain't much fun either. So it's probably painful. You can fast forward. Let's see, we're getting up in the 30s now, so that's good. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Come on, baby. Let's fill that AC line. Come on, baby. Let's fill that AC line. So we can rock in and roll in when it's nice and cool inside. Yeah, well, oh gosh, what happened there? That's weird. Woo. Now what happens too is when the pressure starts to get a little higher, if the pressure in the can is higher than the pressure inside the system, then obviously it's not going to go in because there's too much pressure in the can. We may have to put a fresh can on there just to get it to fill, just because the can is only pressurized, right? And when pressures are equal, it ain't gonna work. You see how much the pressure goes up when I tip it upside down, and that's because there's liquid going in there. That's not necessarily healthy. Yes, I know I said celery, not celery. It's okay. I like celery. Put a little peanut butter on it or dip it in blue cheese. Celery's good. So, can's nice and cold. It is getting pretty empty. I can feel the can's pretty empty. So we may put a new can on there just to speed things up. But I kind of like to use them until they're empty. Whew, that's cold. If there's liquid left, we kind of want to get that in there. But again, don't tip it upside down unless you really, really know what you're doing, because you can ruin your compressor. Not a whole lot left in this can anyway. But hear that slow down like that? That's because there's little drops of liquid getting in that compressor. Unfortunately, with this system, it's going through a dryer and a whole lot of hoopla before it gets there. We're still getting there, slow but sure. We will be changing the can out here before much longer. This can is completely empty. Zoom in on that so you can see it real good. Can's completely empty, but I've got 38, almost 40 pounds in there, and it's in the green. It's about where I said I wanted it. So I'm going to let it run. Now you can see as the AC's been running in the truck's getting cooler inside, but you can see that this needle has come down quite a bit. And we want to keep it up 38, 40, or in the middle of the green, even after it's pulled down the temperature inside the truck. So I'm going to go ahead and put another can, because this one's empty. Ain't another, not one more spoonful of freon in there, so we're going to get the other can and put it on. Now, with a fresh can, it's going to fill up a lot faster. There's a little bit left in there, but it's coming out of here. That's not good. Whoop, let's get that back on there. Shouldn't have been leaking, but it is. Alright. I guess I should have disconnected it. But alright, now, we've let a little bit out, as you can see. Let's zoom back in. Alright, now we're going to start putting it in. Got the AC. I failed to mention this, I think. Well, maybe I didn't. I don't know. You got to make sure your air conditioner's on max cool. High cool, fans on high. Everything's on high. I can feel the can getting cold. as we're filling it. That means freon's going in. Of course, there's quite a bit of pressure inside this can right now. We're going to keep on doing this until we get back up to, 3840 again. You can see we're up around 40 right now, but it's still pulling down. It's still getting colder and colder and colder. I've got 2 full cans. This one's empty. Just shake it a little bit. If it doesn't get cold, you know it's empty. So we're going to let it run. I'm going to go check the temperature in the truck just for fun, but I think it's going to keep pulling down, so we're going to let it run. We may have to put a little bit more in. I've got 2 full cans in so far. And we're kind of right where we need to be, but as it gets cooler and cooler inside of the cab, that is going to pull down some more. So we're just going to leave it on there and see what we come up with. Now, it's not rocket science. If you put your hand in front of the vent and it's blowing cold, it's working, okay? But just because I've had people go, how come you didn't tell us the temperature inside? So I've got one of these temperature little laser doodahs. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to point it into the vent. And if you can see that, I don't know if you can, but it says, I don't know, I don't think you can see it for whatever reason, but it's saying 53 degrees. So, I don't know if there's any way to get where you can, I don't know if you can see that or not. But it says 53. Well, up 60 when I get up a little bit lower, but 52.5. 53, 52.5. So I'd say that's cold enough, wouldn't you? You don't need you could use a thermometer that you put in your mouth if you need to. Any thermometer is going to work, but you don't need to. You just kind of go like this, go, oh yeah, that's cold. Good. So that's really the best way to check, the whole hand trick, or stick your face in front of it. It's like 90 degrees out today, and this is blowing 53 degrees, and it's nice and cool. Oh yeah. Let's make a popsicle. But that's way cool enough because, okay, let's just for kicks, let's see what the temperature, I might not be 90. Let's see what the temperature is today here. Oh, okay, maybe it's not. Boy, it feels way hotter than that out here. Oh, let me do this. Oh, I think you can see it this way. It is, yep, there you go. I think you can see it. 83.5, 84. And that's just pointed out the back of the shot. So it's in the, mid 80s. And the truck is 58 degrees. I'd say that's working. There we go. It's 59 degrees blowing out of the vents. We have just sitting right at 3840 where I said we wanted it to be. It has not pulled down any further. Of course, the window is rolled down, so it's still not getting icy cold inside the truck. But I think we don't need any more freon. I'd say we're good right where we are. That's going to cool this truck. The lines are sweating. When you can see the lines are getting sweaty, that's good stuff right there. Okay, I'm not going to touch it. We're just going to leave it right there and call it done. Something I thought worth mentioning is always take your hoses off when it's running. Because if I shut it off, all of the pressure, like I said earlier, it's going to equalize. And this is going to be higher pressure, and you're going to lose more freon when you unplug it. So we are simply going to leave it running so that it's still sucking. Suction line, so it's still keeping the pressure low, only about 40 pounds. When I pull this off, I don't lose a whole bunch. There we go. That was easy peasy. Alright, make sure you put your cap on. Your cap, if you get a slight leak in your trailer, this cap will help to keep it from leaking out. Just tighten those 2 caps up. We're done, folks. We are done. D-U-N done. There we go. All done. Ice cold air. In fact, I reached my arm in there to shut the truck off. And I was like, ooh, it's nice and cool in there, right? So, I hope this helped you out. I apologize for having to change the line, but if you get into trouble and you notice you have a leak, it'll at least show you how you can do that. And if you want to buy the equipment, obviously you can do this entire thing that I did. If not, you probably will have to go to a professional to vacuum the system. But you could change the line. You know, you can do all of the work and then simply go to somebody to get it vacuumed out. And, you know, see how much more it'll cost you. An average mechanic, and I'm not trying to hurt the economy by not letting mechanics work, but if you could just get somebody to vacuum it out, then you can go ahead and add the freon yourself, right? And I don't know how many shops would be willing, if you've done all the work, I don't know how many shops would be willing to throw a vacuum pump on it for you. I don't see why they wouldn't. Or if you could find just a friend that has one, you could borrow it. Once you get the vacuum in there, the compressor is not going to run with in a vacuum. So you don't have to worry about destroying anything. You can literally let the mechanic seal it up after he vacuums it, and then take it home and refill it. You know, fill it up yourself. But I would check and see how much he's going to charge. But usually they're going to charge you per pound on the freon. And I think I paid, what, $10 for those little cans. So $20 worth of freon to fix this one, plus $30, well, $27 to fix that broken line. And then, oh, I'm sorry, it would be $37 because of the O-rings that I destroyed were $10. It was $10 for 3, so they're like, what, $3.50 a piece, something like that. But all I'm saying is you could do most of it yourself other than the vacuum. Now you could probably go to, you know, any place and buy a vacuum pump. I think there's some pretty inexpensive ones at, you know, your normal China dealer, which is usually Harbor Freight. I know it's cheap junk, but a vacuum pump, you know, if you can buy one cheap enough, go for it, you know. Not advertising for them, by the way. I don't get a dime for any of this. I'm just kind of trying to help you out, find where you can get stuff less expensive. Because you can spend hundreds of dollars on a vacuum pump, but you might be able to get a mechanic. You have to weigh it out. If you got a mechanic that'll do it for you, but he's going to charge you $100, can you buy a vacuum pump for $100? Maybe. I don't know. I've never, like I said, mine's 35, 40 years old, so I'm still using the same one after 40 years. Look on, you know, swap meet stuff, or look on, you know, online, whatever. See if you can find a vacuum pump for cheap money. But don't worry about it if you don't need a line. Just fill up the freon and keep on going. If it's low, there's probably leaks somewhere. But these leaks, they can be so slow. Fill them up once a year. The EPA probably isn't going to be real happy about that, you know, because if it's leaking down every year, obviously that's going in the atmosphere. But it is what it is. You know, until the EPA is paying my paycheck and helping me fix stuff, you know, I'm going to have to do what I got to do. Anyway, enough talking. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked it. If this helped you out at all, please subscribe, because that helps me out. I don't need no money. I'm not asking for a dime. I'm simply saying if you did like it, if this did help you, please subscribe. Helps me out greatly. If you liked it, it wouldn't hurt to hit the old like button, just because, you know, it makes me feel good. And if you tell your friends about it, that helps me as well. Because the more friends you tell, the more people that subscribe, the more it helps me out. So if you want to help me out, because I helped you out, rock on, just subscribe. That's enough of that. See ya!